Well, very summarized conclusion in the sense that actually been followed the whole of the three panels. Well, actually, the opening remarks on the three panels. I have there some ideas. Just going to mention them as a way of a let's say summary and homework to follow. The first, if we have the opening remarks as a point of departure of the debate, I think that, well, first of all, we have to establish that the governments to see national strategy of Roma are not a plan for Roma, but as a part of the macroeconomical strategy, which is something that is important in the sense that we're not talking about a specific need for a specific group, but as a part of the global approach. The second idea I think is relevant from the starting point is that the Roma, from that point of view, is a community that can strongly contribute to the general frame, to the economic potential, which means that actually some expenditures are not such, but investments, and this has to be seen in that way. And finally, also from the point of view from the departure, is that very often we're talking about lack of data. It's true in some part we have a lack of data, but on the other side we have many data that can be used and can be part of our job in a daily basis. But then we go to the three panels we have been following, and let's say very concrete ideas of those panels. On the panel number one, on how the Roma are benefiting from the European policies, it has been very specifically mentioned that the problem is not of more funding, but of more flexible funding, and basically used to promote the local development capacities, which is something that is important. The second aspect that was mentioned to me was the need to present a positive image of Roma, fighting stereotypes, change and challenge negative attitudes, and as also some of our colleagues mentioned, to put on the table those speeches that actually, even if they don't pretend to be, are racists. So that's something that we need to be very clear at, with no exceptions. Obviously, strategies needs budget. Nobody denies this. But also mechanisms to implementation and, more importantly, to monitor those implementations. And obviously the NGOs, the local communities, have a role to play in there, not only on the monitoring, but also to be as a watchdog of this kind of programs. On panel number two, how to build on the experience from the decade of Roma inclusions. I think that it was very clear from several speakers that the two initiatives, which is on one side the decade and the other one, on the other side the EU framework, have to run together. I mean, they are interlinked. We need to establish connections in between the two because they run on the same directions. It's important to base our job on the good practices, and this is something that it was mentioned for several. So we are not inventing the wheel. So we are just implementing some of the initiatives that are already on the road, that we have to take the best advantages from this. Some say there is a lack of knowledge about Roma because there is lack of data. But on the other side, we have a lot of data, and we need even more data on the cost of the non-inclusion, which is one of the analyses that we need also to put on the table. It was mentioned as a, let's say, word that has a meaning on itself, the programmistic attitude in some of the panelists, and that this must be tackled in some countries. But also, it was mentioned from some of the speakers that the national level Roma strategies must be connected with the structural funds, and even some of the MEPs who spoke before mentioned this in a very clear manner. And finally, on this final panel on the role of the European Parliament on monitoring this, it was mentioned in several occasions that there is a role of supervising the other two institutions, which is the Commission and the Council, and through the Council, obviously, the Member States. That finally, this means to include Roma people in all the different aspects that have to do with not only the definition of policies, but also with the implementation of those policies. And finally, which is also one of the key issues that we have to bear in mind, is how do we include all these basic problems linked with the Roma issue related to the freedom of movement, discrimination, access to basic services, but also representation at the political level on the general and mainstream debates, not only of the European Parliament, but also of the national parliaments, which is probably one of the most difficult tasks that we have in front of us. Obviously, this is a summary. There are many other things that it will be put on a more, let's say, comprehensive text at the end of this conference. But let me just say that personally, as member of this Parliament, quite committed on this issue, I think that the result of this conference is not going to stay here, but it's going to be widespread from all over the groups, and obviously hope it will have an impact to the Commission and the Member States as we all wish.